former missionary, pastor, school teacher. C.S. Murphy says he couldn't make up his mind, which is not true. He's had a long and wonderful journey with the Lord and has brought us over 114 books. Great storyteller. And the teaching comes through in the way you write, because we're learning more about God and His goodness in all that you bring to us, C.S. Welcome from Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm a little bit surprised, because we're going to be reminded in this time that you are no stranger to trials, huge trials. But this book, When God Turned Off the Lights, I think represents the darkest chapter of your life. And it's fairly recent. What's this about?
The night before Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, I'd been to service at our church, and I was coming home, you know, in my car alone, starting to pray, and it was this sense that God wasn't listening. Just so awful, just darkness, and I didn't know what was wrong. That was the beginning of it, and it lasted right at 18 months. Now, I have to tell you, my career was doing great. My wife still loved me. My kids didn't hate me. The rest of my life was fine, you know? But all of a sudden, God just stopped talking. God went on silent. It's like getting on the telephone and calling a company, and they put you on hold for 45 minutes.
Except this was 18 months.
18 months. And I just didn't understand it. And, you know, I hear all these sermons and read these books about God's always speaking and teaching us. And back when I wanted to publish the book, they didn't like the title, because one of the people on the publications committee said, no, God doesn't turn off lights, God turns on lights. And I said, well, in my case, He turned them off for 18 months. Martin, I've discovered that if we're really serious about our relationship with Jesus Christ, we do have these dark times.
Well, what's the familiar term? The heavens are as brass.
Well, it's right in the Bible. It's in Deuteronomy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Huh, look at that. Well, the idea that, you know, you're praying, but your prayers aren't going anywhere. There's nothing getting through. But some are wondering, just what did you expect? I mean, many people watching pray, but they're not even 100% sure God is responding. So you had something going on with God that was now gone. Tell us about it.
Well, I don't know, other than this sense of the presence of God. I just had this sense that God was with me. And the best way I can explain is this. You ever go outside on a really dark night, they're clouded, and you can't see any lights? Well, you know there's a moon, and you know there's stars up there, but you can't see anything because there are dark clouds covering it. That's how it was for 18 months. I never doubted God's existence. I just couldn't figure out why God chose not to talk to me.
So there was a breach in the relationship, in how you experienced your relationship.
Yeah, and of course, you know, see, the natural thing to do is, okay, what have I done wrong? And that's
is
what
it sin in my life?
And I told to a couple of friends, and they asked me, have you been praying? You know, they asked me all those kind of questions, like, what? Didn't you think I thought about that first? You know, but I searched my heart. I prayed, I confessed, I reconfessed, I reconfessed, and this went on and on for days. And I finally realized that somehow I didn't understand the reason. And here's the best thing I learned, is that even if I understood the reason, it wouldn't change anything. See, suppose God had said suppose I said, okay, God, tell me why you're doing this. And God said, okay, here are the 7 reasons. So I would understand 7 reasons, but the situation wouldn't change. And I finally realized that the why wasn't the right question. The question I need to ask was, God, what is going on that I need to learn? And that didn't bring any light, but it made it a lot easier. And then I discovered something else. 14 times in the book of Psalms, it refers to God hiding His face. Psalm 13:1. How long, O Lord, will you hide your face from me? Forever? And I realized, number one, I couldn't do anything about it. Number two, I wasn't the first one in history to go through that kind of thing. And even
was Job an encouragement to you?
Pardon?
Job.
And not right then, because he was having all these problems and so I wasn't having those problems. The book that gave me the joy, believe it or not, was Lamentations.
Ooh.
And if you read it in the contemporary English version, which really is very simple and so on, puts it in very contemporary kind of terms, that one, I read that, I must have read Lamentations 20 times, just over that. And a lot of the Psalms, the lamenting Psalms and so on. And I realized that, you know, it's just something I had to go through, and when God got ready to turn on the lights, they would come on. What I didn't know was what God wanted to teach me. And this is the hard part to talk about. I saw things about myself that I really didn't like. Now, you see, I taught an adult Sunday school class of about 50 people. I was faithful. I preached in a lot of church. You know, did all the Christian things, you know. And so people saw this view of me, but inwardly there were some things going on. And I'll share one of them with you. I'm a giver. That's not anything to boast about. You know, it's a gift. I just like to give, and I give freely and generously to things. And one of the things that I saw was, yeah, I gave, but I also remembered. And so if I gave you something, I expected a return.
Oh.
Now, it's embarrassing to me to tell you this, but it's honestly true. And I would keep score.
So it's not really unconditional love.
That's right. But I never realized that about myself. You know, we all have dark spots, and
Sure.
blind spots.
And God's got us on a process we call sanctification,
Right.
which is just making us more like Jesus.
Well, I was so embarrassed that I thought, oh, look at that. And so for about, this happened about 5 years ago. So for about a year, every time I would do something for somebody, I would say to them, I want you to understand, you owe me nothing. I had to do this for me, not for them. You owe me nothing. I'm giving you this because this is what I feel God wants me to do. You owe me nothing, nothing in return. And that's what finally freed me. But you see, I learned a lot of things like that about myself that I really didn't like.